While riding around on my motorcycle today, talking into the camera about stealth camping, I remembered that I got busted a few years back stealth camping in a national monument, and I even have video to prove it. Stick around and I'll share the story with you. So, I'm about to go scouting out some spots to do some stealth camping in preparation of my ghost town project that I'm going to start back up. I'm going to be looking for ghost towns, exploring ghost towns, documenting those, and sharing them with the world. And I'm going to need a place to camp nearby, at least some of the time. And I think it'll probably bring a new dimension to the ghost town story. If I can camp in an old ghost town or nearby a ghost town. I know that ghost towns don't typically have cemetery, don't have hotels, so maybe sleeping in a cemetery might be my next best option. I know there's plenty of old cemeteries out there, so that might be something interesting to do, is hang out in a cemetery. We'll see about that. All right. This is a pretty cool road here that I came through earlier, and was having audio problems, which is not that unusual, I don't guess. Hopefully I will be able to zip through here with a lot less problems. But I want to talk about the Ghost Town project. I want to talk about stealth camping, and I've got a few minutes till I get back to the house, so maybe I can accomplish all those things before I get there. So I'm scouting out some places to stealth camp closer to civilization. So in other words, it's not that big of a deal to camp near, or it's not a big deal to stealth camp out in the woods, and even a lot of people don't call that stealth camping. They don't consider going out into the woods and camping stealth camping. So I disagree. My definition of stealth camping is basically camping in places where you probably shouldn't be. So, and that opens up the discussion for a lot of different places. So public land, private land. I prefer public land. That way you have to explain to somebody that may be rational. If you're camping on private land and somebody runs into you, an owner, a property manager, something like that, they may not be as rational as a forest ranger, park ranger, policeman, sheriff, deputy. So with all that said, I would say my go-to place is always public land. But there are some public places that may have some really stiff fines. I actually got busted as I was leaving. I forgot about that. And I think I forgot about that because I thought I had permission to be camping there. I talked to, that's a whole story in itself. My first trip on a motorcycle across America, I was camping outside of Los Alamos. My intention was to camp at a campground. I was not a big stealth camper back then. I tended to like to go to the places that I knew were going to be open and had facilities, and So, but this one particular time, I had driven through Los Alamos, and they had a big checkpoint, like a big gate, like you were crossing a border almost. But anyway, on the other side of that was the National Forest. I can't remember which one it was because I didn't spend any time there. It was burnt. It had burned a couple of weeks before I'd gone through there. So the campground was closed. A lot of the roads had washed out because all the foliage that kept the soil in place was washed out after the fire. The mud, the burnt carbonated mud was all over the road. There was still a few spots that I drove through, but I went, instead of going north into the national forest, I went south into National Monument. And oh, it was beautiful. It was I'd gotten to the point the sun was going down, and I was just riding, and I could see rain on the horizon. I'm thinking, man, I need to get set up quick. I'm hanging tonight, hanging in my hammock. I need to get my tarp set up first. And about the time I got the tarp set up, it started raining. So I was able to hang everything else and not get wet. But man, that was a fun trip. But the next morning, I got up, packed everything up, and as I was packing up, I saw somebody that noticed me. I was off the road a good bit. I was probably off the road maybe 100 yards, 150 yards. And I was on the edge of the burn. So in other words, the place that I was at was like a small cliff face, like a 15-foot cliff. I went off the road and just a few, maybe 100 yards across this platform that dropped off of a 15-foot mesa kind of thing. But on the other side of that, everything was burned. So apparently the burn came up to this wall and just stopped. So I camped on the edge of this burn, hung in between a couple trees. Next morning I got up and I was leaving and packing up, leaving, and I noticed somebody creeping by. Looked like maybe a government truck. And I didn't think anything about it. I was like, hey, I guess they probably wonder what the heck I'm doing over here. Since I have my hammock and everything packed up by then. So no camo. Anyway, got the bike packed up, rolled around the corner, and maybe 30 yards away from getting back on the road, I noticed a guy standing out in the road, and he was waving me down. Dressed like a ranger, dressed like a forest ranger. Had a radio, and he was talking on the radio. He had pulled off, and I think that was the same guy. I'm pretty sure that was the same guy that slowed down and was giving me a once-over. So he called in to an actual ranger. It looked like maybe he was just Forest Service. He was maybe just worked for the Forest Service. I'm not sure. I didn't ask him. But I got the whole thing on tape. I was recording the next morning as I was leaving out. Got the little dude on the walkie-talkie, and he said, hang on, Forest Ranger's right behind you. He's coming in to talk to you. So I talked to him and told him the story, and basically told him I was at the gate coming into Los Alamos, and they were telling me the story that the place had just burned, the campground was closed, and they suggested I just pull off the road on the side of the road and do some camping. And that's exactly what I did. And when I told him that story, he said, well, the damage is done, and I don't think I did any damage. I mean, maybe tire tracks, but it was, the soil wasn't really soft or anything like that. So I would be surprised if he went back in there and he didn't even go and look. I would say, okay, stay here, let me go see. If I'm really concerned, I don't think he was. I think he just, he understood. Honest mistake. But that was my first experience with a national monument too. I didn't know how big a deal that national monument was, but apparently it is a big deal. It's kind of like going and taking a shit on Washington's monument. But this was, this was not built. This is just wilderness that a president, and it's not a congressional thing. A national monument is declared by the president. So if a president says, hey, we need to protect this, kind of like Teddy, my favorite wilderness guy, Teddy Roosevelt. I think he started the monument thing where he just declared this land is important. We're going to make it a monument. And I think he made the first monuments and declared the first monuments. And I'm pretty sure he's the guy responsible for the National Forest, maybe the National Park. No, I think the National Parks were there before him. Anyway, very instrumental. So I can't blame Teddy for any of the problems that I experienced that time. But and maybe he is responsible for all the good times that I've had. We'll see if I can get around this big truck here. Oh, we're getting up. We're getting into the 80s, baby. Wow, this fucking truck is cooking. I mean, with gas. I have to get up around 90 to pass this guy. I just hate dump trucks, even when they're running empty. Well, this road tax will pull it. I'll tell you what, just got to get around the guy. I don't know if I want to run 90 all day long, but it'll get up to 90 plus. And I would think that it would get up even higher than that if I could, if I would gear it right. I don't want to gear it right. I like it. It's geared perfectly right now. But anyway, that's stealth camping. A little bit of reflection on stealth camping. I've had some really good discussion about stealth camping lately on a few interesting places. A lot of people are disagreeing with the idea of stealth camping, disagreeing with the definition of stealth camping, and luckily I haven't had too many people trying to straighten me out. You know, it's most of the people that have joined into the discussion have been pretty rational. You know, I don't agree with you, but I understand. And that's kind of my whole thing about stealth camping. You know, 40 years ago, nobody knew what the heck stealth camping was. You're camping on the side of the road? Well, you know, I hope nobody comes and mugs you, but nobody's gonna bother you. You're on a motorcycle 40 years ago, 60s, 70s. You know, somebody might pull over and see if you need something to eat. But, you know, things have changed. And they don't always change for the better, unfortunately. Hey, thanks for hanging out and listening to my crazy stories about motorcycling. I've got some ghost towns coming up in the next few weeks. And if you're into stealth camping or riding around on your motorcycle and you dig what I'm doing, please consider subscribing and hit the notification bell so you can tell when those videos come out. And I'll see you on the next one.